Thank you, Freddie. Our next two guests are really two people who spent decades in the industry. So the first one is Eric Shamlin, so CEO of Secret Level, an entertainment studio that is really working with AI to push storytelling further. He has a career spanning over 3 decades in technology, entertainment, and advertisement. His work has won many awards, so many Emmy, Peabody, and Cannes Lion awards. He's also very involved in the community, so he's either advisor, chair, or co-chair for different organizations, different committee, like AI Task Force or Innovation Committee for the Emmys again, the Producer Guild of America, and South by Southwest Film Festival. And today he's going to talk to us about Hollywood 3.0. So please welcome Eric Shamlin.
Okay. Thanks for having me. First time in Montreal. Very warm welcome, despite the snow. Thanks to Alex and Stefan. Very honored to be here. I stand before you a bit of a media nomad and a failed engineer. Still kind of surprised that I get to talk about Hollywood, since I idolized it so much growing up. But it's kind of the curious vantage point I now have with the company I'm now leading. I will get into all of that and unpack all of that in a second, but I'm going to start with a video that many of you may recognize. Okay, so the first hat I'm kind of wearing today is CEO of Secret Level. And so we were contacted by Coke, I think back in June of last year. The Coca-Cola Holidays Are Coming campaign had been dormant for a number of years. They had done it, I think, at least 5 years. Most of us actually just remember it from the 90s when it first debuted. But it's become a piece of sort of Americana and just global iconography with the polar bears and the red and the winters. So they sent us a brief, and they said, can this be done in AI? Just 100% AI, all audio, all video. And we said, we think so. And we proceeded to produce the spot. We delivered it last summer. Then it went through an incredible battery of testing through the fall before it debuted in December. The fun notes, if you had done that traditionally in production, probably been a 6 to 9 month process, beginning to end. For those of you in premium advertising, we did the whole thing in 4 weeks. So, dramatic speed increase. Can't share budget numbers, but that was also a dramatic savings. But the speed is really what we trade on, the speed and the quality. The other notes we got, so when that launched, we knew it was going to be a hit. We knew it was going to spark some controversy and some debate, but it went global. It was very interesting to be on the inside of that when it sparked the debate. And it really, the criticisms came down to kind of 3 themes. Are we taking jobs? No, we're sort of displacing. We didn't hire a lot of grips and gaffers traditionally, but we hired triple the amount of visual effects artists. So you sort of shift the labor pool a little bit. It has no soul was one that I liked a lot. It has no soul. I was like, well, I don't even know what that is, but it has as much soul as any other visual effects spot. In fact, it was a global team of 24 artists, 4 of which were a pod in Senegal, which would have never had a chance to work on a Coke spot previously. And so they brought as much soul to this project as anybody. There's no craft. It has craft all throughout it. Every single frame was massaged and tweaked and manipulated and polished. So it has as much craft as, again, any other visual effects spot. So net, Coke loved it. The public generally loved it. The public only cared if you made them aware it was AI. If they didn't know it was AI, they loved it. But at the moment you mentioned AI, it started to bias the opinions. So, generally they liked it. The people that hated it were the professional creative class. Art directors, copywriters, creative directors, they hated it, just hated it. So my inbox was full, my LinkedIn was crazy, but it was fun. It was fun because it was all kind of off base. And ultimately, sort of getting to my partner and I, we're trying to build a bridge. We don't actually see ourselves as fire starters or bomb throwers or disruptors of any sort. We actually, I've been producing in various mediums for about 30 years. I very much see us as kind of bridge builders. I think Hollywood's at a crisis moment. I think production is at a crisis moment right now, particularly at the premium level. Hollywood or big brands, production is not going to be done the same way it has been. It's just going to completely overhaul once you start playing with these tools. It's an end-to-end revamp of the production pipeline. And so we're committed to doing it ethically. The Coke spot, every face in that is based on a real person. We hired actors, we shot them, because we thought last summer we were going to have to do face swaps. We thought we were going to have to take them and do a traditional visual effects face swap. We ended up trading Laura's on all the actors, and the renders turned out great. So we ended up not having to do the face swaps. They looked accurate enough to the actors got paid, got their session fees, they got their credits. So all actors were not replaced. During the production, we decided to not use AI for the audio. It's my opinion the audio technology, while quite advanced, is not quite there for this kind of thing. So we ended up hiring a band or an orchestra to compose the music, and then we hired an a cappella group to sing the little jingle at the end. Always Coca-Cola. So we're really committed to making this an ethical, responsible transition for Hollywood, despite a lot of the feedback we're getting. The second hat I wear is, I've been in media my whole career. I've been blessed to win a few Emmys. So I now sit on the board of governors of the Emmys. I get the honor of handing them out every year, which is quite fun. But just in the last month or so, I was appointed to be the chair of their AI task force. So what that means is it's every day, both in my day job and my night job, to broker this transition or try to help put guardrails in place, best practices, kind of educate and inform the industry on where it's going to get hurt first. And I'll get into more of the details there here in a sec. What I'd like to do is kind of humanize it a little bit, because I very much think I'm kind of a face of it. This is my dad. I get to brag on him a lot. He's a rocket scientist of some renown. He was part of pretty much every missile team over the last 30 years, but also the least creative person you will ever meet. And I grew up in rural Alabama. I never thought about creative careers at all. I thought I was going to follow in his steps. I did go to engineering school. I was going to be an aeronautical engineer. But in college, I got a night job at a local TV station, and my fate kind of went a whole different direction. My dad was confused for many years as I attempted a creative career. Am I paying bills? Am I starving? Usual questions from very practical dads. But I have to give him credit. He didn't understand what I was doing. Creative was foreign to him, but he supported it all along the way. But that's actually not the point. The point is actually, I didn't discover it until my 30s that he did have a creative spark. And I visited my grandmother, and she had in a chest of drawers some old sketchbooks of his. And he was a really good sketch artist, like landscapes, portraits. I didn't know that for 30-something years. Like, he had just killed that creative spark in him. And that made me sad, that I've led this great creative career, and then but always thought my dad is not creative, right? So that sort of juxtaposition stuck with me. And I think that's kind of the tee up I'd like to get into, where AI is going to help unlock people like my dad. But right now, we are absolutely in a crisis moment. I get this both on my day job and my night job. Production is down 50% in Hollywood. Jobs are already down 20%. It's all going offshore. Everybody's blaming AI. AI is absolutely not the culprit. This comes from like streamer inflation and shareholder value. Other things are at play, not AI. AI came in too late to be a culprit. You can see AI as either the nail in the coffin, or I would like to say it's kind of the spark of a Phoenix resurgence. I think that we're about to see kind of a resurgence of creativity that we've never seen before. But that doesn't help. That doesn't help when you're paying your bills, right? You know, between SAG and WGA, there was 250 days of straight strikes, right? And I don't have great news for them. Those jobs are not coming back, or not coming back in the way they were. And so that's really my job at the TV Academy, is to like figure out how to help these people, you know, reskill, upskill, you know, pick up these tools, because all the studios have announced that they're using these tools moving forward. And so I'm going to help give them a bit of a life raft. And what I like to do, and I always like to do this because I get in these debates all the time. People are like, Hollywood's dying, nobody wants to see it. That's absolutely wrong. The art form is alive and well. The biggest box office of all time was Thanksgiving weekend. So people want to see the content. There's a higher, they want to consume it at greater speeds and quality and quantity than they've ever wanted to, and the machine can't keep up is the problem. We can't produce it at the quality, at the fidelity, at the responsiveness, at the relevance that the audience demands. That's why they're going to TikTok and whatnot. They can get that responsiveness. But if you produce it right, they do show up. And that weekend show, Avatar made $3 billion. Every Marvel movie makes, you know, maybe you don't like those kinds of movies, but it, you know, they do make money. People do show up. So I think we're in an adapt or die moment. It's very much pick up the tools or, you know, become a CPA. It's like, it's really, you know, it's like, it really is. And it's not just production. It's in the creative development, it's in IP development, it's look dev, it's the entire stack gets overhauled once you start playing with these tools. Right now, we've had the blessing of a couple big projects. I'll show a couple more here in a sec. That have put us on the map in Hollywood. We thought we were just going to be a small little AI development shop, production shop, but the phone does not stop ringing. What I like to say is we're at the sort of end game democratization of content. This is an image from Quo Vadis, which is an epic, you know, sandals and togas movie, I think from the 50s, famous for having 32,000 extras or something. And I use this as an example of late-stage democratization of content. You can say your iPhone or digital cameras democratized capture, YouTube democratized distribution, social media democratized marketing. The last vestige of the streamers, studios, and big budget holders was production value. You know, production value would get you their Tom Cruise, would get you the sets on Mars, would get you the locations you want, right? Production value was the last holdout for the big budget studios. That was that last thing they had to control of. That's not true anymore. I can put Tom Cruise on Mars fighting aliens right now. So I don't need to ask their permission to do it. I do legally, but not from a production pipeline standpoint. And so that collapse is significant. And so the value exchange is no longer there. If we can produce it without you, why do we need you? Oh, and to give a case in point, this is a second project. We did the Coke Spot dropped in early December. Then right after Christmas, we dropped this. I'll play this, and then I'll talk about it.
Well, looks like we got a new king of video.
So Jason's my creative partner. He's the chief creative officer of Secret Level. So that got Hollywood beating down our doors. Just to give you a sense of the scale of that one, so if you were to shoot that traditionally, that's probably a $10 million shoot, a week or more of closing down New York, set dressing it to look like early 80s, finding a 70s car, stunts, pyrotechnics, medics, cops, the whole 9 yards. $10 million easy. It was free. We did that for free in 4 days in Jason's bedroom. So the economics just don't play out, right? It has a lot of problems. This is unpolished. You know, you can see at the end, his face is all wonky. I think the license plate changes in literally every shot. There's scenes where the wheels are going backwards. We're very aware. In fact, the Coke spot has all those issues too, by the way. Half the wheels on the trucks in this Coke spot aren't turning. So. But we're aware of all that, and now we fix all that stuff when we get called. We're working on a very large music video you'll see in a few days. I can't talk about it yet, but it will drop soon from a very large hip-hop band, and we fixed all of that. All the continuity, all the face, all the conversations, lip sync, it's all been fixed, so we're now kind of over the uncanny valley with that. But the economics are just kind of out of whack in terms of how this stuff gets produced. So what I sort of am positing is we're quickly reaching sort of tool parity. Every creator in the world, particularly my team in Senegal, have the same access to the tools that every one of you have, everyone in the world has, and soon you will all have AI superpowers, creative superpowers. And so the difference is, you know, once we all have superpowers, the difference is in the skill. Who uses it better? Who's got the better sense of taste? Who's got the better sense of the zeitgeist, and we're already seeing that rise, you know, because it's not just good enough to just type in a prompt. In fact, we think prompt engineering is kind of quickly becoming kind of a rank, and it's a start in the process. We're seeing a whole new set of skills arise. There are people that are very good at still images. They're very good at people that are good at motion. So, you know, like we start our projects in image. And so we go, you know, iterate in images because it's very quick, lock the look and feel, and then we send it to our motion team, which is actually a different team because we find that there's just a different eye for capturing naturalistic motion, physics, you know, lighting, shading, that kind of thing. So we're actually seeing a rise of new skill sets, but they're all AI assisted, AI enabled. And so what we think is about to happen, particularly this year, because a lot of the freeze or hesitation around AI has been really legal. A lot of the studios and brands haven't wanted to touch it. We think that's about to thaw out, and you're about to see one of the greatest unlockings of, I think, human creativity imaginable with these tools. And that sort of brings it back to sort of my dad. I think the reason he didn't pursue his artistic passions was because he was a very practical guy in the rural South in the 60s. And he had mouths to feed, a wife, and new kids. And so, you know, he wasn't going to learn Photoshop. He's not going to learn, you know, a process or a tool. So he just killed that inspiration, that spark in him. But I tend to be one that believes that everybody's got at least one spark. You've got the one poem in you. And if you just look at the scale of that, 8 billion people with one piece of poetry, that's going to be the greatest unlocking of human creativity ever. And by poetry, I mean any creative output. And so what we're seeing with this, when we've all got superpowers, we've all got the same abilities, but different sense of taste, it does bring it back to the sense of taste. It brings it back to who is that primal impulse to tell a story, to kind of connect with an audience, connect with another person who has a sense of where the zeitgeist is, what is topical or relevant and meaningful to the people today. Those are the skills of the future for creatives. This is another project, I can't play a whole clip, but this was a documentary we did that debuted at Sundance in January, based on an indigenous civil rights activist that went to prison, supposedly unfairly, unjustly accused. He'd been in prison for 50 years, since the mid-'70s, a guy named Leonard Peltier. Biden actually pardoned him as a last-ditch effort. But his whole story really hinges on a shootout between him and the FBI that happened in the 70s. Big he said, she said. Did the FBI plant evidence or misconstrue what happened? So we actually went and recreated the shootout using GenAI. We used all the court testimony, all the measurements, the location data, and recreated it to show what really could have happened. It's too late to really know. Projected at 4K, it looks flawless. It looks like 60 millimeter film shot on handheld, as it would have been in the 70s, right, with a news camera, indiscernible from footage that you would have actually had from archival at the time. And from there, we're shifting into original content development. We have a whole slate now. We're on board with the big music video that I hinted at earlier. We've got another big documentary that's probably going to debut at the Cannes Film Festival. These are some of our brand projects. Well, the bottom two are brand projects. Bottom right is a action video game that we're helping work on. Top left is a animated kids series that we're working on called The Wood Fuzzles. Top right is a short film that we did that won one of the AI film festivals. So we're full speed ahead and trying to figure out how to do longer form projects. Because of where we sit, a lot of the studios are coming to us with like dormant IP. So we've got at least 2 franchise universes that we're trying to help kind of build out now, because we can iterate and ideate and conceptualize and do look dev at a pace that they couldn't have done previously. And then this is the last video I will share. This is our current animation sizzle reel. I think there's this race to photorealism that actually is going to be, I think is actually going to be more protracted than people think. I think the uncanny valley is a bigger challenge than people think. We're able to cross it, in bits and pieces, but I think to consistently do it for a 2-hour movie is actually maybe a couple years away. So we're doubling down on animation, and this is our animation sizzle reel.
You always said the best stories were the ones we shared. You made the impossible feel real, like stepping into another world. Your best stories had sweetness and wonder. With you, I was never afraid, even when the world felt upside down. You reminded me where we came from, folk tales that shaped us. Even in our everyday stories, you found wonder. You made the simplest moments feel like magic. And you showed me what strength looks like and how I could face anything head on. You were always there to catch me, no matter how far I fell. You taught me to dream without limits, to reach for the stars. You made me brave enough to face anything. You helped me become who I am today. And even in the stillness, you made the world come alive. Dad, even though you were gone, every story, every feeling, every memory, it's all with me. And now I'm ready for the next chapter.
It's only like 4 more slides. I'll race through them. I'm out of time. Net. The art is alive and well. People want it. People want it more than they've ever wanted. They want to talk about it more than everything. There's this weird false dichotomy, social versus TV or streaming. It's not an either or. The hottest thing on social media when it launched was Wednesday, or Stranger Things. It becomes the social conversation. And so it's not an either or, it's both. And they support each other. And so to tell stories in the future, to build new IP franchises, you have to take that social conversation into account. How people are talking about it, wanting it, desiring it, criticizing it, you have to take that into your creative process. And so that's what the Gen AI allows us to do, is work at the speed of culture, is how we phrase it. This is a note about the thawing that's about to happen. So the lawyers have been putting the brakes on for the last 2 years. That's about to change in pretty big fashion. We're already seeing it in a lot of the calls. U.S. Copyright Office has already made a preliminary, it's very initial, statement on where, if and how AI can be copyrighted. So, and that was one of the 2 blockers. Can it be copyrighted? And then who owns the dirty data? That's another conversation for another presentation. But yes, you will be able to copyright AI outputs very soon. So that's at least one half of the equation. And then, yeah, bringing it back to my dad, I think we're about to see the greatest unlocking of human potential, frankly. That's it. Thanks, Ryan.